It's Friday. It's 4 o'clock. It is short fuse. How are we, everybody? Good, good. Excuse my voice. I had a bit of a late night. I won't show you the details of this mug, but I went down to Brighton with my friend from uni. Big shout to Rob. And we saw Squeeze. Yes, if you're of a certain age. What a band. Great to do that stuff when life was a lot simpler. And you could say that also about Harvey Weinstein, but we won't talk about that. We've had a busy week this week, a very busy week on policy, and I could tell you lots about it, but frankly, why would I? That's why I employ reporters, and that's what they'll be doing a bit later. You'll be hearing from Pri. We have got lots happening in this show, particularly we've got a special guest coming up a little bit later from Exeter University, so stay tuned for that. But let's get on with our story of the week, and it is from down under, mate. Well, not technically. Tony Abbott, the former Prime Minister of Australia, has been in town this week, and he's been speaking at a forum run by the Global Warming Policy Framework, which is basically a group that doesn't necessarily believe in man-made climate change. Now, Australia, as you well know, ozone layer, big issues, climate change, blah, 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 lots of desert, is a country that's vulnerable to climate change, as we all are. But the former Premier had something quite interesting to say. He basically said that higher CO2 levels, which may well be happening, isn't a bad thing. More emissions are not a bad thing because, and he is right, plants need to use CO2. So the more CO2 in the atmosphere, the more plants will grab it, and then you get a better yield of crops. And particularly, he says, in parts of the world where there could well be food shortages. So the reality of the models, which have predicted lots and lots of high global warming, haven't quite materialised since 2014. And Tony Abbott says that he believes that maybe there is a change happening, but maybe it's not climate change that's bad, but climate change policies that are bad. So he believes the policies that are increasing the cost of our energy, the policies that are causing power stations to close down, they may well be the worst thing rather than the climate change itself. And he doesn't believe that climate change, the paradox is that climate change may not necessarily be something that is as bad for the parts of the world we think it will be. So let's have a think about that one. I mean, that is an interesting point he's made. You do know that plants need carbon dioxide. We do know that actually, if you look at the stats, what we thought we'd have in the early 90s by 2017 hasn't quite worked out. That doesn't mean we're not polluting the earth, and it doesn't mean that we're not actually causing some warming. Whether the policies are the right ones or not, well, that's a bigger debate, because you could find out that actually by going on this policy drive to decarbonise, it may be expensive in the short term, but it may actually be exactly what we need to do as we electrify transport in the longer term. I don't know about his speech. I'm not sure. I'll leave you guys to watch it on the website and tell us your views. But it's interesting a debate is made by a premier of a country that, you know, would have normally you'd have thought would be going, hey, let's do lots and lots of climate change policies. Okay, that's one there. And then the second story from EY, RECI, which is the Renewable Energy Country Attractiveness Index. Let's call it RECI for now. It just basically says which countries are good to invest in renewable energy. So following on from the Tony Abbott thing. And despite all of the stuff, all the crap we've had about Brexit and all the issues we've had, we are still, the UK, 10th out of 40 countries as the most attractive to invest in. And you may have seen on ELN over the last couple of weeks, we had our first big subsidy-free solar farm. We went to the opening of that up in Bedfordshire. We've had the last round of the auctions, and we've got lots and lots of renewable capacity. We've got biomass. So in a way, despite the policy vacuum, and it's fairly obvious to say that that is really the case, we have got enough here to make people want to invest in us. So it's actually quite an interesting story from my point of view that you don't really need to have endless subsidy, endless policy frameworks to get people to invest. You just got to make sure that you're doing it yourselves. So whether companies are doing it, individuals are doing it, and that there is enough confidence in the financial markets to invest in it. And that shows that we're still there. Number one, by the way, was China, and number two was India. And finally, the other story that caught my eye this week was about over 60s. I'm not quite there yet. Now, over 60s, 1/3 of them like smart devices, smart meters, devices that help them save energy. It was a survey done by Centrica. Now, you would say Centrica would probably say that people want smart meters, but anyway, they did a survey of 700 people, and more than a third said they really like it. Now, it may seem bizarre that the generation you might think would be not interested in technology, is actually adopting it more than younger people. Well, why would they do that? Bloody obvious in my view. They're the ones that pay the bills. Of course, that's why they do it. And actually, seeing as, 2 weeks ago, my mum got Netflix, right? The idea that older people don't know what technology is and how to use it, frankly, that's bullshit. If you give them the right tools, they'll do it. So I am not surprised that over 60s are interested in this. They pay their bills. They are often on budgets. So why wouldn't they want devices that help manage their energy? And I think it also means that the Internet of Things that everyone thinks is coming along, and it is in some format, may not be just about young people, the ones in this office, doing weird things on dating apps. Yeah, let's not talk about that, Freddie. Anyway, so I think this is a good one. Shut up, George. Right, that's about it. Let's move on. We'll do more stories, as I said, a bit later with Pri, but this time it is time for Viewpoints. Okay, this week's Viewpoint is about India. Aha, absolutely. Two stories that seem to contradict what's happening. So you just heard earlier that India is doing very well on the renewable attractiveness, and this is the first story that caught my eye. It's about crude oil. Yup, crude oil. So India has just imported its first big shipment of crude oil from Texas. Can you believe it? From Texas. It's been imported to Odisha, the eastern Indian state, 1.6 million barrels. And it's all part of India's growing strategy, which means it needs more crude oil. So it'll be used by petroleum companies there. It'll be used for refining purposes. It'll be used for a lot of things. So on one hand, India is embracing fossil fuels. And then you get this story, which happened literally a couple of days later, which is that India has strengthened its ties with the UK and the EU on clean technologies. So investing in smart grids, investing in renewables, and you just heard, they are second in renewable energy investment. To me, that sounds like a contradiction. You've got a country that's got 1 billion plus people, it's got loads of cars, it's got loads of fossil fuels, and yet it's also investing, at the same time as importing all this oil to help it grow, in clean tech. Well, what does this all mean? Right, joining me on the line, if I can get this wire off, George, hold on. We have a professor who can, well, not a professor, a doctor who can tell us all about it. Dr. Senthilsara Sundaram from Exeter University. He's a lecturer in renewable energy and all things to do with the sort of clean tech world. Dr. Sundaram, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you very much. Thanks for contacting me for this one.
No, we're very interested. What's your view on this, what seems to me a contradiction in terms that India is importing lots and lots and plans to import even more oil. It's also doing lots of digging for coal. And yet at the same time, in states like Gujarat and other parts of India, vast investment in renewable energy. How do you see that, what appears to me, contradiction?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a contradiction, actually, first of all. But I can go through a little bit of the statistics side of the energy demand in India. It's because of the industrialization, urbanization, and then population growth rate and everything. By 2025, India is going to be the world's largest workforce, and then 350 million people will be moving into the cities in 25 years' time. So in one way or the other, to run all these shows, you need the energy. Yeah. Right. So the production of energy in India, it's not coping up very well about the demand. So you need to find the other sources from outside actually. So that's the main aim of getting these oils. And then for your information, in India, if you are using 10 barrels of oil,
Yeah.
it's about 8 barrels imported from outside actually. So
Wow.
that's not very good. So first of all, and for the economy like India, it's a growing economy. So you don't want to see this will happen, and then it is going to invest again more kind of fossil fuel based energy, and again so there is a statistics says again it's going to be the 9 out of 10 barrels will be imported from outside actually. But if you take the renewable energy side, and as you know, UK and India have a very good collaboration for developing the smart city, smart metering and everything, and lots of things happening. In fact, actually, I'm involving in one energy center between India and UK. So we are doing the smart grid kind of technologies, how that will be viable in India, something like that we are doing. But to me, in the long term, it's not going to help if you are investing more money in the fossil fuel kind of a side. Instead, what you can do, the India can invest into the renewable energy by subsidizing the renewable energy in most of the places in India. For example, I came from a south part of the India,
Yeah.
and there you don't get any subsidized prices for the solar.
Right. So can I
Yeah,
just stop you there? I mean, so
yeah,
you're talking about the clean growth, but you said 90% of it is imported, the oil.
yeah, yeah.
Do you think India is using the oil as a short-term, using the cliche burn, but a short-term way to get enough infrastructure built by using fossil fuels to go towards clean? So is that what it's using? It's using the oil to grow, but eventually wants to go into this cleaner India.
Yeah, I think that's the roadmap they are laying down actually. So they are trying to build up their infrastructure, most of the places
Yeah.
which is not there in terms of the energy network. And once you get that infrastructure, and then you can go into the green and clean very very quickly. So that may be the idea, but as far as I know actually there is I haven't seen anything in the documents or anything. But as you said, actually, it's a contradictory policy anyway. And then the statistics says actually they are going to buy more and more oils from elsewhere actually. So
Right.
yeah.
So what, do you think that is simply a case of an idea, clean India? We've even run stories that India is going to try and clean up its rickshaws and its taxis, going to EVs. It's got this big clean growth plan. And
Yeah.
yet the reality is for the government, people need power. And the cheapest way of having power is still fossil fuels. So do you think it's a mistake for them doing this, or you think this is just economics?
No, I think I don't think it's a mistake actually, because if you see the petrol and diesel prices in India, it's not going down actually. It's increasing day by day, and even though the barrel price is very lower in the world market, in India the oil prices are going up actually. So that means they are cutting down some of the subsidies they are giving to the oil-based fuels,
Right.
and trying to get more into the renewable energy system. That's what I'm thinking actually. Maybe that going towards the clean India in 2040 or 2050. So they are trying to lay down the stones slowly. So yeah.
What state are you from? Are you from?
I'm from Tamil Nadu.
Tamil Nadu. So
Yeah.
your home state, have you seen a big change in things like, moving to LPG instead of diesel for transport? Have you seen electrification? What have you seen, and your friends are telling you that's going on now that's showing this shift in India?
I haven't seen anything actually like this. That's the trouble. In few years before, they have.
And yet we're doing all this science in India. We're doing all this kind of research in India that's going on,
But
and investing in this kind of development. But you're not seeing it on the ground.
No, actually, that's bare minimum to do the research first and develop the infrastructure. Then only it can go to the market. Like Innovative K kind of a projects, they can. So the market, the companies or industries from UK, they can go and work with Indian partners and lay down the infrastructure slowly. For example, some of the places you can see some electrical vehicles, but not very popular though. In my state. But few places, 10 years before, there are Reliance gas stations, but they are completely shut down now. And you can fill the gas, LPG gases somewhere, but I don't see lot of gas stations are coming along the line.
Finally, do you think all this ambition is just politician talk? Because if India does go clean, 1.2, 1.3 billion people. It's a hell of a lot of money to spend to just clean up the transport system and electrify it. So, but do you actually think this is a realistic goal? Do you think there's an actual drive for India to do this? Because it sees that if it does this, economically, it will be stronger.
Actually, to my opinion, actually, 50% is that way and 50% is this way. So they want to go clean, but the clear policies has to be there to support the renewable energy.
And if you don't have that means subsidy in your mind.
Subsidy, and then a lot because if you take it in India, so the present government try to keep everything centralized, even though for the electricity. Consuming and trying to distributing everything towards the central, but instead if you can give it to the more power towards the state and then ask them to manage themselves, I think they can manage better than the central. That's my opinion.
So you think it should be more regional energy? That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Sundaram. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, well, we'll be picking up on that story later in the week and we'll have some more about it. But now it's time for our reporters. It's Hack Hutch. So, Hack Hutch. I'm waiting for my reporter. She's busy. She's getting herself ready. Have you dressed up properly?
Yeah, I think
Far better than Johnny. Look, you can drop the microphone. Look.
Yeah,
She's such a lady. What are you worried about? It's not going to pull your neck off, is it?
Okay,
right. What's been happening then?
Lots happening this week, as you might have read on Energy Live
News.
Really?
I haven't read a thing.
That is
policy.
Policy everywhere.
We've had loads, haven't we?
We've had loads, nearly 20 documents out in a week, in a day, which was yesterday. So we've been very busy in the newsroom.
You've been busy. What's Johnny been doing?
That's why we've got a notepad. Johnny's been cracking on with stories as well.
Really?
Yeah.
He's mute this week, aren't you, Johnny? Yeah, there you go. So what would you say has been the top policy thing? Because obviously we can talk about price cap, but I think there's something more interesting. What's your view?
So initially was the price cap. So Ofgem set out the... Ofgem will now have the powers to implement the price cap, which could be until 2020. And if they think is necessary, it could extend another 3 years.
But it's not going to happen this winter, is it?
So it's not going to happen this winter because the bill is currently being scrutinized by the Beige Commons Committee. So that will take a couple of months. And Ofgem says that this winter it's not going to happen. So hopefully the announcement will be made sometime early next year.
Okay. Next
but that's not just the policy that's come out this week. No. Loads. That's why I've got a notepad this week.
Good.
Next up is the Clean Growth Strategy. So it's the much awaited publication from the government, and it basically promises deep cuts in emissions across industry. So some of the announcements that's included was £2.5 billion worth of investment in the next couple of years in low carbon innovation. Also plans to invest £1 billion in ultra low emission cars. And the government also says it's going to upgrade around 1 million homes, so that would include energy efficiency measures. So we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, they can't even get smart meters right, but anyway, let's all say that. Yes. Next one.
So continuing with the energy efficiency trend, we've got another proposal from the government, and that's to establish an industrial energy efficiency scheme. So the government has laid out the plans. You can read the story on our website. It should be up on the screen now. And basically that will help the industrial sector decarbonize and they will be given funding to invest in energy efficiency measures.
Now that is quite interesting.
Yep, so large firms.
Yeah, large firms, large big factories, multi-sites.
Cement factories, steel companies. So basically helping them invest in energy efficiency measures, cut costs on energy bills, and also reduce emissions. And this is all part of the decarbonisation.
And there will be
strategy.
money from government for this?
Government hasn't actually mentioned anything about this, but we're hoping that will be the case eventually. They've only laid out their plans at the moment, so no funding announcement yet.
And then next one.
Going on with the energy efficiency, again, we've got a consultation and it's on overcoming the barriers to energy efficiency. So there's been a lot of talk around energy efficiency over the past couple of months, but industry has said that not much is actually being done by government.
And apart from that one day, apart from Thursday,
So what it's seeking is from people their views on just the measures and incentives that could be put into place to encourage householders to invest in energy efficiency measures, so in their homes. But although this is focused on the domestic sector, the government says that this could be some of the ideas that they get could be implemented in the micro business industry as well. So
which
that's
is
quite interesting. Small
businesses under 10, 15 people. Yeah. Okay.
So continuing with the energy efficiency theme again, we've got this is the last energy efficiency story about the Green Deal. So that's been lost for a while. So it's come back again. So if you don't already know, under the Green Deal, householders can borrow money, install energy efficiency measures and save money on their bills, and that loan is paid out through energy bills. And this was initially established in 2013, but the government 2 years later said it's going to scrap it. It's not going to provide funding because it basically there was low uptake and it wasn't as successful as initially planned. But the framework to support this is still in place for Green Deal plans that were already put into place before it was scrapped, and also if there are private companies who wish to invest in energy efficiency measures.
Which is what they've been desperate to do.
Yes, and this was, I think it was June when the first energy efficiency investment was announced through the Green Deal Finance Company. So what the government is saying is the pay-as-you-save mechanism, as it calls it, could actually be very useful in the future to help people save money on their bills. So it's asking for opinions on how this could be changed to improve the process. So that's the Green Deal done. Finally, just bear with me. This is the last policy story for now.
The whole short piece for this.
We'll have more coming up in the next couple of weeks. So this is about the voluntary emissions target. So the government is planning to introduce a voluntary emissions target for the public sector and the higher education sector.
Okay, but it's voluntary.
Yes. It's the first step, I would say.
Okay, all right. Let's stop there because I think my head is blown, and I'm sure everyone else.
Everyone else might be too.
Why on earth? It's worse than waiting for buses. Yeah, Bays. We wait for a policy, and then they give us 17 in one day. What the hell do you think has been going on?
I have no idea. It seems that they've been too busy writing up the documents, hundreds and thousands of pages of documents that we're trying to get through.
Waiting for the Tory conference to finish, exactly. Waiting to see if Theresa was still a leader. Of all of that, what do you think is the most important one, really?
I mean, to be honest, the clean growth strategy was something that the industry has been waiting for a very long time. There's been a lot of talk around it, but the government has been kind of pushing it. And it's finally out. So hopefully the industry hopes that this is going to give them the confidence to
make the investments.
Yes, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as Pri said, we do lots and lots on policy, and we'll be doing, for those of you who subscribe to our policy report, you'll get a bumper one this Monday that's got there. Anything else you want to talk about coming up?
Coming up, we'll have more. No, well, there's too many policy stories this week, unfortunately. But for any other stories, do head on over to energylivenews.com. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And we do use that as well. And if you've got, get you in touch. I'm getting there. It's just pushing me. I think it's too much for him, all these policy stories. So if you've got a story for us that's interesting, send it over to Johnny and me. The email address is stories@energylivenews.com. Thanks for listening.
Delivered so much better. Are you going to make Johnny work this week?
Yeah, I'm trying to get him to work very hard.
No one's ever done that. Thank you, Bri. Goodbye. Despair. Right, okay, so that's it. In all seriousness, a lot of policy stuff there. But the reason that's come out is, I think, very interesting. You've got now a government that's looking to say, here we are, we kind of know where we're going to go. And over the next few years, it's going to be a big growth strategy on that front. Well, we're almost out of time. Fredo, any shout outs?
Yes, one.
One shout out. Is it from Kevin Corcoran?
It is. Glad to hear you
Kevin
referencing
Corcoran.
Red Eye, Mr. Bowes.
What did he say?
Glad to hear you referencing Red Eye, Mr. Bowes.
It's nothing to do with you, Kevin. You don't write it. Yeah? You don't even read it. You don't even know what it's about. Well, anyway, good to see Kevin's there. Before we go, I've got to talk about Expo, and don't forget this. November the 2nd. Thank you, George. November the 2nd. Expo. If you haven't got yourself a ticket, hurry, 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 hurry. We've got Darshan on the phone. He's offering massages. He said they're called Weinstein massages. If you start, no, that's not. He's not. No, they are basically. We are just saying. Shut up, Freddie. We are basically saying, if you are an energy end user and if you are a member of the Energy Institute, yeah, shut up. Then you will be able to get a free ticket. You can't keep Jeff out, can you? If you saw Periscope earlier this week, he stormed in like some sort of banshee, as he normally does. Anyway. In all seriousness, please get yourself those tickets, because we've got now nearly 400 registered, okay? So we've only got about 50 to 80 left. So get yourself on that list. Contact Freddie.Rand@Energy Live News. Go onto our website. You'll find everything like that. We've got a cracking lineup of speakers, and we've also just signed up Michael Gibbons from Elexon. So, and we were hoping that I'll be able to confirm to you a final big name by next week. That's it. So, thanks very much for watching. Apparently, George is finally coming of age.
Oi, oi.
He's going to be 25. Now, when I say 25, we're talking about his IQ rather than his age. But for George, have a lovely birthday.
Cheers, mate.
Nice.
That's how I grow up and get a job.
Yeah, by the time you got a job anyway, that you actually did. Ladies and gents, we'll catch you next week. Have a great time. Make sure you get in touch. Read the stuff. Give Johnny some work.